Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thoughts by Jay Brown stream. So, today I'm going to be talking about International Podcast Day, specifically how I got my start in podcasting. Um, Most people, hey, Davros, how are you doing today? How's the recovery going? Um, as as most people who have followed me from the very beginning to now, I actually started out doing just audio podcasts on podcast99.org, also originally known as davebowman.com. One of my favorite one of my favorite things was listening to him and realizing how much that I um, enjoy actually talking about politics. You haven't met the requisite number of streams yet, Christ Puncher. So, um, anyways, I started out with the topic of the baker's cake issue in Washington State, something close to home, about a gay couple who were suing a Christian woman for not baking a cake, specifically designed much in the same way that the Colorado baker case in Colorado has been. Um, that's good, Davros. It's good to hear that you're recovering. And besides, Christ Puncher, also have to throw in the caveat: you have to learn how to sing "Why the Sun Does Shine." Then I'll make you blue. Anyways, as far as getting into podcasts and listening to podcasts, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and I started listening to MuggleCast.com and listening to their podcast. They're already on like episode 430 something now. That's crazy. Um, hey Sean, how are you doing? Oh, just talking about how I got into podcasting and doing my YouTube stuff. So, um, and Christ Puncher Sean's blue because he keeps everybody in check. So, anyways, I got into listening to podcasts through MuggleCast and the various other interests that I have. I'm not going to go through the whole thing of what I listen to or whatnot, but just suffice it to say, I've been listening to podcasts for quite a while, and I've been podcasting since 2017, 2018, talking politics. I've briefly moved over to YouTube, or not briefly. I've moved over to YouTube more consistently, and and as a result, focusing on that more than I have been the podcast99.org group, which I'm going to try and rectify that. I think what I'm going to end up doing is um, trying to talk to Dave to release over there. So anyways, Brainy Beaver, I sent out the invite to some people. I have my own meets page. I sent out the invite to Brainy Beaver, uh, Jared, and several other people. If they show up, they show up. If not, I may keep this short. Hey, Peter, how are you doing today? So, um, one of the things that I want to do, one of my, you know, bucket list things that I'd like to do is actually go to a podcast movement convention. It's literally, podcast con basically. um, go and interact with people, go and talk to them, and actually go meet other people like the Audacity to Podcast, Ray Ortega, who kind of helped get me through my initial setup and helped me figure out what was going on with my system. I knew what you meant. They're damaged. I knew what you meant. Um, Anybody have any questions for me about podcasting and what? Anything in particular that you would like to know? Let me make sure I got the right browser set up here for this. So this is kind of the event that I want to go to. They have it in Los Angeles in February, or I could go to Dallas in August. I suppose if I go to Dallas, I'll have to meet up with Team Skeptic, huh? How many tabs, Christ Puncher? So, anyways, I'm trying to get some people in here to talk about their time on not just podcasting, but YouTube and whatnot. So, oh, Sean, you're talking about Furball's video that he sent to just about everybody. Damage. That's why I listen to Sean in streams along with other people. So, and Sean's videos, his parody videos are great. So, all right. This was meant to be a free flow and a conversation with other people. Um, let's see what we got here. All right. Now, where were we? Well, you have the voice to do it, Sean. I'll tell you that. The hardest part is actually make sure you get the right web page set up in RSS feeds to go to like Apple and all that. I haven't done any of that yet. I've been trying to. I just have. I just don't know what I want to do. I don't know how I want to market it on YouTube and all that. That's what I'm YouTube, Apple, iTunes, and all that other stuff. Uh, oh yeah, cast iron. That that would be interesting. So generally, from what I see in podcasting, as far as just people who do audio podcasts, it is a lot of people use Skype as well as like Google Meets and whatnot. Um, and they just schedule time, and the hardest part is editing. Um, when you're recording your voice, especially if you use a dynamic mic like mine, if you have the gain set too high or if you have it too close, like I generally do, because I like to use the proximity effect of microphones. Every time you breathe, you get a intake, and it just takes technique and practice. I mean, I still do it from time to time, where I'm constantly hearing my breath. But when I'm doing video and audio, I generally just leave it because obviously you're going to see me trying to take that breath. So, I had pizza for lunch, so that doesn't affect me too much, guys. I had a little DiGiorno pizza. The joys of the joys of work. So, in a fuel station. So, yeah. You have a gyro. Cool. I haven't had one of those in forever. I need to make those. Um, Podcasting itself is pretty easy. Um, really, you just need like a simple microphone, like a USB Yeti, for one. You don't need anything too extravagant for recording like I do. the Procaster with the Rodecaster mixer. So yes, it does. That's what I found out, Shauna, in regards to your leaving the breaths in. Some some people try to edit it all out. Some people just try to shrink it. I just leave it in there as much as possible. But if I am doing audio only, I'll cut it out and just replace it with like a longer, with the basically silence gap that equals to what I cut out, so it doesn't sound like I'm talking really fast. You know, Sean, you have mod powers. You know, you could time them out for 300 seconds for that comment about pineapple on pizza. Uh, anyways, let's see. Somebody else commented in Discord. All right. What am I doing here? Trying to do too many things. All right, so let's move that back down there. Another everything, Christ Puncher. Everything is wrong with that. Anyways, a lot of people tend to use try to think that they have to go whole hog initially. Um, you know, soundproofing rooms, getting the best gear that they can, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even buying the best software out there. I I started out with Audacity, which is a free audio software. Pretty good software, actually, in my opinion. I only use Audition now because I have to pay for it for school, so why not use it and get familiar with it? But a lot of people also get these really high-end condenser microphones that are better than the Yeti. Well, just about any microphone is better than the Yeti, but still. Um, anyways, they'll try to get the sound, and then they'll crank up their gain and get all this background noise. They don't set up um, their sound dampening material properly, so it ends up reflecting off of um, reflecting off of whatever they're talking up against you. Sometimes they even position themselves right up against a flat wall, right behind them. I know I was doing that at the beginning, but that's just because the way I did everything. Hey, logical troglodyte, how you doing? Sean, that is a wonderful science experiment, and that needs to go onto YouTube. All right, logical. Did I send you the link? Yeah, yeah, logical. Go ahead and join. That's fine. All right. Let's see here. So, and what I found is talking with my friend Dave Bowman, who actually used to be conservative talk radio, um, talking about politics. Um, I found that him and I have differing opinions on a lot of things, and I'm like, yeah, I can counterbalance him. Not that that's what I was trying to do, but that's just kind of my mentality about it. Was that he helped guide me on what I can do to improve my audio. Um, Through him, I found that I had the house that I'm living in. Hey, logical, how are you doing?
Hey Jay, just trying to work the stupid mute button on this thing. Yeah, I saw your just now saw the message that you sent me, and I wasn't sure, so I thought I popped in on YouTube and see what was going on
Yeah,
before.
just discussing International Podcast Day. So
Oh, didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah, I'm actually, and let me switch over to that screen so people can see that you're actually here. I need to do some better screen work with my OBS, but I digress. But yeah, no, just talking about like how I got my start in podcasting and then kind of moved it to video podcasting with YouTube and all that. So
Oh yeah, okay.
speaking of
How
which,
did all that start?
I started about 2000 September-ish 2017. Well, no, was it March? I think it was March. It was either September 2017 or March 2018. One of the two. It's been so long since I've done work on the original site that I was on. So let's see here. Podcast 99.org. I still occasionally plug them and I don't know why. Let's see. Yeah. Actually, my podcasts are still up there. Oh, and he actually. Oh, sweet. He actually records all my audio. Here, I'll show it to everybody out there really quick, and I'll share it to you too. So, podcast99.org, category J's Politics podcast, and you can see all the fun that I've had. And it's hard for me to lock down on what I really want to be doing. Well, like you see, I have some titles: Twist, this week in U.S. politics. Then I went to kind of just the full thoughts by Jay Brown. So, and you have the live chat still open, right? Really? Well, I have it set for. Let me close some of these programs that I'm actually not using right now. Close. I don't need to save that. Okay. I have it set to go to 1080 at 60 frames per second, Sean. Has it improved at all? Or did it go down to or did it go down, or does it stay down pretty low? Because if I have to, I can change it out later. And I can always re-upload this later because I recorded at the same time. That might be part of the problem, is I'm recording and streaming at the same time. But have you ever done any podcasting, Logical?
In fact, I hadn't done any live work at all until Canadian Thomas and the guys decided to start the shills with me.
Well, the shows technically would be considered a podcast nowadays, even though it's on YouTube. So consider yourself a podcaster.
Yay!
But what have you ever listened to any podcasts, or do you listen to any on a regular basis?
No, I haven't really. A little bit here and there, I suppose, but I have not had like a real computer in my hand for I don't know, since like 01, 02. And so I kind of just do everything on my phone, and trying to get the podcast channel sometimes on my phone is a bit of a pain in the rear.
Especially if you don't use an iPhone, yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed I enjoyed doing what I do on what I was originally doing, which was just audio hearings. Oh yeah, it was actually March 14th, 2017. It's my first podcast. All the way down at
What
the
was the
bottom.
topic on that? Do you remember?
The Washington State Supreme Court ruling against the florist. I said cake. It was actually a florist who wouldn't put together a bouquet for or table pieces for same-sex marriage.
Oh, I
Similar to the
remember that.
similar to
Well,
the
not just podcast,
Colorado,
but the issue. Yeah.
and I side with the course that she cannot use religion as a valid reason. However, I am also of the opinion that she has the right as an artist to, you know, censor her own work the way she wants to, in the sense that she can pick and choose her clients. You know what I mean? And that's just
Yeah.
something that I've gradually came to recently. In in my thoughts on it because I was pretty like, no, you can't use religion as a reason not to service anybody. But then when you think about the business side of things, that a person has the right to run their own business however they want, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of, I still haven't made up my mind on that. I can see both sides of the argument and stuff like that. It's like I don't get why people get uptight about things, and
I
but eh,
I totally
all I can say
understand.
is whatever, you know.
I totally understand that premise on that because it is one of those in the town that they're at. She was probably the most recommended florist, but you have grocery stores that have their own floral shops that could do these arrangements that the people wanted, but they wanted to pick on her because of the stuff. Hey Terry, how are you doing today?
I mean,
Yeah, Sean, I do have a C920 which does awful lot of the soft focusing, and I've tried tweaking with the settings. I'm actually going to try and get a actual DSLR camera that I can plug into my computer. So, um, but yeah, I covered quite a range of things. I discussed the Neil Gorsuch hearings, um, the American Health Care Act. Um, I talked about the collisions in September after the second collision by the Navy. Was it destroyers that collided with ships in Asia?
mm-hmm.
Net neutrality. I really need to talk to. I just talked about a lot of stuff. I mean, that's. I'll post a link to this in here in the live chat if you guys want to check out my work. Literally everything that is I've ever done, including just strictly YouTube that I haven't sent him anything. He has me on an auto download. It looks like. So, um, do you have any questions about podcasting? Like, if you were to want to do podcasting, has there been anything that um,
Well,
you want to ask somebody?
I'm kind of, I've been kind of curious about, since I've had limited tech for so many years, what is kind of the basic line of tech you'd want to have in order to do podcasting? What's the minimum you need? I mean, I know people kind of go all out with that sort of thing, but what
Yeah.
at a basic minimum would you really need?
Really, just what you would need to get started. If you're doing just a solo podcast or you're doing a podcast via like Skype, you need like a mic that can connect either via an audio interface or just directly USB, like a Yeti. And I would also recommend a like just a little, not like tape recorder, but a little handheld recorder that you can plug in to the headphone jack so you can record both audio at the same time. You can edit it together with a free software called Audacity. And that's all you need to get started.
Okay, now I'm going to show my Techno Dyno here. What the hell's a Yeti?
Oh. If you still have the stream open in about 30 seconds, you'll see me holding up the microphone, the Blue Yeti. The little, it's a condenser mic that has 4 different polar patterns, and you really only need one of them. But it does the job. It's a condenser style microphone, so it's um, sorry, setting it down didn't want to make a loud noise. Um, it picks up a little bit more audio, but at the same time, because it picks up more audio, it picks up everything in the room. So yeah, you definitely don't want a built-in mic like on a laptop or a phone. You can even get away with like just a simple lavalier mic, like you see reporters and whatnot use on an actual set. You can plug those directly into the mic of a computer or a phone, even. Um, well, I'll have to lower my settings next time I do a live stream, so that way it won't be so taxing. Um, you could go all out like I do. Like I have this microphone here, which again you won't see until you actually look at the if you're watching the stream. It's the Rodecaster Rode. It's the Rode Procaster connected to the Rodecaster mixer, which is just came out this last Christmas time. It is a dedicated portable podcast studio. It has 4 mic inputs, 4 like XLR microphone cable connections. You can connect to a computer via USB. You have what's called a phone jack or a TRRS connector spot that you can connect to your phone or tablet directly to, so you can do Skype calls or whatever through that. You can also connect your phone or laptop or computer via Bluetooth as well. And it also comes with the soundboard, which I have
Interesting.
recorded various people on there, including Jaren.
Hmm.
It's $600. I mean, that's not something to sneeze at or anything, but it is actually, a great investment if you're going to be doing podcasting. I run a football podcast, an NFL podcast on another channel that I started. I would love to get down in January, the end of January, for the Senior Bowl, the college football's last bowl game for all seniors, or the seniors that are invited, anyways, and hang out with a bunch of my football friends. That we all go, they all go down there. They scout for their team, basically talk to the Sirius NFL radio hosts that are there, talk to the scouts. They've had coaches like Bill Belichick show up at their campsite and sat down and had barbecue and talked over, different plays and schemes and stuff like that. So I'd love to get down there with this thing and just, sit down and have conversations with people.
Yeah, I have been so out of the loop with all the technology for so many years. It's actually rather pathetic. When I was a younger man, fresh out of the Navy, it was all the newest toys and the biggest, baddest stereos and all that kind of stuff. But
Hi-fi and all that, yeah.
But as the kids grew and their financial demands grew right along with it, as children do as they go through teenage years and young adult years, I just started working more and more hours. And before I retired on disability, I was working 70 hours a week and sometimes more. I had no time to keep up with social media, technology, or anything else.
Yeah. No, I understand that entirely. If I could work, 70, 80 hours a week at my job, I would. But we're contracted by a union to where we're limited to 40 hours unless the demands of the store I work at require me to come in, which they fight tooth and nail not to, because I maxed out on my pay scale chart. So, which reminds me, we have a contract strike possibly coming up. I need to get in touch with the union. But Sean's got some good advice for you in there if you ever wanted to.
Just say that.
And he's right about the mic. If you want a good mic, I mean, you could get away with also what's called the Samson Q2U. It's about a $60 mic. It's what Schrodinger's cat uses. It's a mic. It's like a dynamic handheld mic you would use on a stage almost. It's got the mic connection like an XLR mic, but it also has a USB interface as well, so you can plug it in and use it. So that way, whereas the Blue Yeti that I have, it's only USB. I can't upgrade it down the line if I wanted to. So, and again, it really all depends on how many people you want to do locally and stuff. My wife and I are working on doing a travel podcast type of thing, talking about our travels. Where she doesn't want to show her face, so I can sit here like this with you, but I can have her audio coming through from one of my other microphones, and me and her can talk about things and whatnot. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I just had a long talk with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, who's a big tech geek, and he was asking me, what do you want to do with it? He said, well, what do you want in it? And I was like, I got no idea. My tech knowledge is 20 or 30 years old,
Yeah.
So he said, okay, what do you want to do? So when I was telling him, what I do and what I like to do, then he started, oh, you're going to need this and you're going to need that. And he's just talking all geek to me. I don't get it, but it's like he at least understands it. So he's given me time to save up some money. He's going to refurbish a computer for me.
Yeah.
And, and we'll get that scored away. It takes time when you live on disability, but
Oh yeah.
it'll get done, and I'm really looking forward to it. Making videos on a tablet is is not the easiest thing to do,
No,
but
it's not.
yeah, I've been watching your podcast for a little while now, and I was like, you know what? So that might be kind of an interesting thing to do, kind of getting away from some of the general silliness of the conspiracy theories and do something a little more real.
Yeah, I mean the biggest struggle that I have with it is I'm I'm not keen to promote myself as much as I should. You know, I just like, yeah, if I get out there, I get out there. If I get views, I get views. Great. If not, no big deal, because I'm not doing this to make money from YouTube AdSense or anything. Although I did just start, well, not just start, but I did start putting into my podcast stuff, my Patreon, my Subscribe Star, and whatnot, because the fact that I talk politics and I don't side with how a lot of um, people think I should, especially when it comes to the YouTube style of things or the YouTube political alignment there's potentially the eventuality that if I ever do become monetizable or at least meet the requirements, I won't get approved because of my content, which is fine. And if Patreon finds out that I talk about things the way they do, I could end up, even though I'm not making anything, nobody would pay attention to it. I could end up like Sargon of Akkad, where I could just get yanked from their system, even if I didn't do anything on their platform to warrant it. You know what I mean? So I'm
Mhm.
not trying to be conspiracy theorist about that. I'm just the practicality of if I ever do get big, those are potentials I have to worry about, which is why I have the Subscribe Star account as well. So yeah.
Well, what about, you said something about promotion and that. Um, Kind of what are the other podcasting platforms and how do you promote yourself for those things to grow?
Well, the easiest things to do are when I say easiest, the ones to get your name out there, but still takes a lot of work, is doing an RSS feed to Apple iTunes. Um, there's another big one that I can't think of off the top of my head. It's podcasts. So, um, and I have not set up those, even though I have my own website that I do.
Hmm.
Sean's pricing computers for you now.
I see that. Uh,
But
but
in all honesty, I could do more to link. I could work on my website more. I haven't touched my website in months, just enough to set up my football podcast page and get a couple things on there, and then I haven't touched it because I just all the different topics that I want to talk about. Trying to focus plan um, is going to be what kind of distracts me from doing the stuff that I need to get down and dirty into. Like I'm tackling the national popular vote compact people. I've recorded 2 videos so far. Haven't posted them to YouTube yet. Because I want to get like two more under my belt, so that way if I end up skipping a week of doing them, I can at least have a couple in the can just to throw up there. Um, but as I've been doing those videos, I'm just like, okay, now I see where the problems are with the electoral college as they see it, and how many of my friends who are very liberal and don't hide it think the electoral college failed them. But I've also just realized the national popular vote is just basically trying to get it to another extreme that's going to be just as broken as the system that we're in right now. Just kind of as a preview, um, 48 of the 50 states use a winner take all mentality. So if the majority of the people in your state vote for one candidate, then the candidate gets all of those electoral votes. So like in Washington, we are predominantly a blue state, so therefore Hillary Clinton won all of our electoral votes. Nebraska and Maine are the only 2 states that use um, each electoral district. Um, each electoral vote is what gets is is awarded to the candidate that wins that particular district. It sounds weird because they literally only have like 3 or 4, so you have like 1 or 2 congressional districts and then the 2 senatorial seats. But that's basically that's how they work it, is based upon uh, that. And if all the states were to go to that model, I think we would have a better. I think candidates would treat the states a little differently than they currently do, which is the big issue with the national popular vote people. So
As you were talking, as since I've been on, I've been kind of wondering. You seem to do a lot of different topics on your podcast, and the couple of the other podcasts that I've seen over the years, they stuck to like single subjects. Is that a growth thing for you, or is that just you have so many different interests,
it's
or is it just to keep it interesting for yourself?
it's a
Is there such thing as a better or worse where that's concerned?
um it really depends on what you're wanting to talk about. Like for me, that's why I keep the NFL podcast separate from my political stuff. Politics being what it is, there are just so many topics to talk about. Um, and I try to talk more about current event politics than just random, like what I started out doing. Because like what I started out doing was just one particular topic. Um, and then I shifted into This Week in U.S. Politics, kind of a take on This Week in Stupid, but not really. Um, and then talking about like a couple topics that were close to where I was living. Um, amongst other things, basically. And now I kind of do like videos or live streams on specific proposals, specific things. Um, where was I looking here? Like leading up to the election, I was last year's um, congressional elections. I talked about the primaries. I started talking about free speech. I do it on a particular topic, and now after that's done, I'm kind of going back into whatever the the topics du jour of politics, and occasionally I throw in my flurf stuff in there, like Jam Truth versus Submarine. Effie Cord doesn't understand the internet, that type of stuff. You know.
Yeah, that was one thing when I first started a YouTube channel that Babes made me promise to stay away from religion and politics.
It it is hard.
Yeah, and I see why she did that. She asked me not to do those things because it is such a hot button topic, and it is so easy to really get arguments and fires and stuff starting in those types of streams. But I got to hand a lot of respect to the people that's brave enough to do those things.
Well, and that's just it. Is much like Steve McRae, people can come at me and tell me I'm wrong about things, and I don't mind that. When it comes to politics, it's not the topics that deal with most of the politics are not so black and white and so this is the science or this is the studies behind it and this is why we have to do it this way because X, Y, and Z. Like uh, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez's Green New Deal. The premise there is that it's going to be about climate change, but there's also social socio-political reasons for it to make us more of a socialist country. When I'm saying socialist, I'm not meaning like communist Russia or anything. I'm meaning more along the lines of a um, where we still have democratic tendencies, but we are more like a UK or Canada, where there are certain socialist aspects, but they're still democratic in nature as a political entity. So um, it can get convoluted if you read up on the things, but it is. But I don't have a problem challenging people too. I have friends that go out of their way to promote things that Antifa do and things that are very controversial. Like talking about Andy No getting assaulted just a couple months ago. It it's one thing for Antifa to actually attack the people they're protesting against and counter protesting if the violence erupts between the two of them. But it's another thing for them to actually attack a reporter. whether you agree with the person's reporting or political ideology, the free press is supposed to be the free press for a reason in our country. So,
Absolutely. That's off limits as far as I'm concerned. Let those guys do what they do,
well, over,
and you do what you do, and everything will be fine, right?
well, here's the thing: is I haven't had a chance to deep dive into this yet, which is why I won't talk about it just yet, like on an actual podcast. Um, Before I started the stream, I noticed that Sargon of Akkad had posted a video where he captured a tweet from Andy No about an elderly couple crossing the road in Canada after going to the Dave Rubin and another political commentator's show in Ontario, Canada. I want to say it was in Hamilton, Canada. Um, this elderly couple is trying to cross the street, and I don't know if they're trying to get to the venue or they're leaving the venue or if they were just walking around and trying to cross the street. A group of Antifa protesters were there blocking them, calling them Nazis, and telling them to get off their streets. And it's like that doesn't project you very hard, or that doesn't project you very well in the into the social light. It makes you look like you're picking on people that don't deserve it. Now, granted, I don't know if this couple is former. The man was a former Nazi himself from Germany. I don't know that. So I mean, they could be onto something. But at the same time, if they're wrong and it's just two old white people, and because they're white, ergo Nazi, that type of stuff just gets kind of gets on my nerves. So when I see stuff like that, I take a couple days, step back, let my emotions wash through it, and then go back and research on it and talk about it. So.
Yeah, I have issues when I see things like that too, because in my opinion, and it is just my opinion, the street corner isn't the place for that type of an argument, because there are laws against inciting to violence, and there's an argument could be made that that's exactly what that is.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, when the police have to get involved because you're harassing people, just trying to go about their daily lives, you're not really protesting at that point. You're just becoming a social inconvenience, and it's not. There's a time and place to protest and a way to do it properly to still get your point across and make you appear to be a more. I don't want to say make you appear to be more valid, but gives you more of a valid complaint with most of the general public, and that's where Antifa fails, in my opinion, because they're fighting fascism. So
I'm sure just like on YouTube, podcasting has every topic under the
oh,
sun.
it
Yeah.
does. Like the one that got me into listening to podcasts is called Mugglecast. It's literally about Harry Potter. That's all it is.
Hmm.
Going back to your question about topic specific, they've done 436 episodes on just the concept of Harry Potter.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit because, you know, as I get real, I'm busy with my own channel, with Babes's channel, with the Shills, with the new Logic and Reason show, but it is all kind of more or less the same thing. And there is one topic that is kind of near and dear to me, but I'm going to have to take a look at the podcasting channels and see how much of that topic is actually out there.
Yeah,
And because I don't know if I have anything new to offer on it.
it is one of those. It's one of those things when it comes to picking a topic is you don't have to stick with just one podcast on one topic. You could actually, have a podcast about, like me, politics. But if you don't want it associated directly with your politics channel, you could have other things, football, travel, like my wife and I. That's going to be separate from everything else that I do. Um, there's just so much that you can do with it. Um, that it's great. I mean, there's podcast movement. Um, it's basically a community of just podcasters that do a whole bunch of stuff. Um, there are a couple YouTube channels about podcasting that I think most people would like, and let me pull those up really quick and get their links. The podcast coach, I think it is. Yeah, Ask the Podcast Coach. Um, his name is Dave Jackson. He kind of pioneered the podcasting industry. So if you're interested, oh, do nothing. All right. And then there is Ray Ortega, and he does a lot of parts, a lot of equipment reviews and stuff. But he occasionally has other stuff that he does. Like he used to do a thing called the Podcasters Roundtable with different podcasters. I think it's really great. All right, let's see what else. And then the one I talked about earlier, the Audacity to Podcast. He started out doing podcasts on the ABC show Once Upon a Time. Oh, really? You're gonna do it that way? Let's try that again. There you go.
Yeah, I'll definitely be checking those out later this evening.
Yeah, they're all full of great information. As a matter of fact, Audacity podcast videos lately have been all about um, vendors that he interviewed while he was at Podcast Movement 2019, I believe. Let's see if he's got a playlist for that really quick. Come on. Yeah. Video has been removed by user. What? I clicked on a playlist. Oh, he's deleted a couple of podcast videos. That's weird. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that he's provided there. Yeah, Audacity is a great, just simple voice editor, or making sound clips like I do. Um, Depending on what you're doing eventually, like I said, if you get bigger and want to do more people like in your own home, and you want to record the audio, the beauty of the Rodecaster Pro is I have the ability to record locally on an SD card here, but I can also send the individual tracks for the audio from the mics to a program like Adobe Audition in a multi-track format directly, and have them all be their own little thing. It's pretty cool.
What do you find better for you and your audience? Probably live versus pre-record.
I'm trying to get into the pre-recording again. I'm going to school for public relations, so beyond the actual typing out press releases and stuff, I want to get into actually editing videos, so that way I can be of use in that kind of department. Like not so much making commercials, but making like promo videos for YouTube and whatnot, as well as using Audacity as well, or Audition to do audio. So that way I can go to, like, if I were to work, say for the Navy, if I were to be able to get back into the Navy, work as a PR person for Subbase Bangor near where I live, I would like to maybe get into like doing like a once a quarter podcast with the various captains of submarines and whatnot, and just be like, talk as much declassified stuff as we can, um, and get it out there for the public to talk, and then maybe bring in some, junior enlisted and junior officers and whatnot, and talk about their experiences, and that can make a bigger impact on recruiting for the submarine group, and whatnot. And it's just little things like that, not that I could actually. Yeah, Sean's
Yeah.
got it right there. It's a mixed bag. YouTube isn't fond of live streams, but viewers are. Um, that's why I will actually do live streams where I'm playing video games, just because I might not have a topic to talk about like I do today, but I do want to talk about stuff. I'll play a video game and interact with the chat. It's not the greatest. It's not the greatest interaction with me and my fan base, but at the same time, it shows that I'm doing stuff for YouTube, and I've seen an increase in stuff. Let's see what Social Blade has to say about me today. I haven't checked my Social Blade in a while. I can be narcissistic sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. I guess if you wanted to do a viewer call-in style podcast, um, how would you do it?
Well, there's a couple
Use
different
like you're
ways.
using here with the link, or use a different platform than YouTube, or what?
Well, here's the thing: you can actually do a couple different. You can actually do it a couple different ways. You can get a very convoluted phone call in setup, or even like a Skype setup, um, to where you can have people call in directly and do it live while you're recording. Uh, my friend Dave Bowman, he does it. He has a voicemail that people can call, and he'll download the audio, clean it up as best he can, and put it into his videos where his videos or streams that he does as little sound bites. Um, what I do is I've been, for my football podcast, a friend of mine who started our little group. Um, we call him the commish, because being an NFL commissioner, etc. He'll call me on my phone. I'll plug in my phone to my mixer and record it there, um, and then I'll be recording OBS with me talking, and his audio will be going into OBS as well as my audio, and then I just go in and clean it up and put the audio that I recorded over the video's audio. There's ways to do it. Like if I wanted to right now, I could call. Well, I don't have anybody to call right now, but I could call somebody, turn on the audio. You would hear them. They would hear you. They'd be able to interact. There's just so many ways that you can do it. It's just how much money do you want for separate pieces of equipment? How much do you want in a compact setup like mine? Or do you want to do it through Skype, which you have to set up multiple audio ins and outs through your computer, which then you get into using. Then it gets into using like Voicemeeter Banana or whatnot. So it's it can get convoluted, to say the least.
Yeah,
Um,
it sounds like it.
and
Uh,
that's what I like about what this is the best. Next to my computer, this is the best $600 I've spent for my podcast and video stuff, because I can literally play a video, share it on screen for everybody, and pump the audio through here and mute it. So like when I get Windows updates or my wife goes live and I have my Xbox app open, it'll pop up, but you won't hear the audio of her going live. If I'm not sharing the whole screen, you won't see it either that she's doing something. So I mean, it's nice to be able to control the audio. Now, I could do it with Voicemeeter through. I could do it through Voicemeeter, then out to this, and then back into the system. But that's just way too many steps that needs to. Way too many steps that are needed. It's as we would say in the Navy. It's called nuking it out at that point.
yeah, yeah. When I was 17 and into my mid 20s, I used to love those old midnight radio talk shows. Where people would call in with questions, comments, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and there was just something really kind of cool and intimate about it. And if I ever did get into a podcast outside of the conspiracy sillies, I think that's the kind of style I'd like to go, back to.
And there are people who do that still. There are people who do that on podcasts. They'll sit down and they're like, I'm going live. What is the where is it here? Home. Let me go home really quick. Do we? I don't know if he's still doing it because I stopped doing it or not. If he's not getting the poll that he wanted. Um, where is it? We used to actually go live on the air. we could go live, but he was paying for it, and I don't blame him if nobody was using it like he was. I tried to, but we would be able to go live while we were recording our stuff and or streaming to YouTube. I forgot what it's called. Sound. I wish I had my laptop up here now. Did I have an app for that? Maybe. You just reminded me of something that could be done. It's a kind of a hefty license, but it's not as hefty as other things are. Uh, come on, my apps library.
Oh, that's one thing I hadn't thought of. Broadcasting licensing.
Yeah. Now the beauty of this is what we were doing was not actually like broadcasting like on a radio. It's still internet, so it's not as restricted like the FCC is with regular radio. Um, oh come on, stop thinking.
But there is still some sort of licensing involved with that, yeah?
Yeah, because you're using somebody else's broadcast software that you're paying for their service to host and record your stuff as well as um, um, providing the links and whatnot. The software was pretty intuitive once you got it going. Um, let's see here. Come on. I just got so many. I've installed so many apps over the years. All right, where is it? Of course, it's going to be down in the S's, I think, too. Um, come on. Oh, there's another one called Mixler. That's another live audio streaming service that's free, I believe. I don't know if they're still up and running, but that's one of the apps I used to have downloaded. Come on. Sam Broadcaster. That's what I was thinking of.
So it sounds like there's a lot more to this than just um, doing like we do on some of the live streams, like the Logic and Reason show, where you get the OBS software and you do your thing, right?
Yeah, and even with that, I mean, like, let's see here. All right, so you have the Sam Broadcaster Pro, which is what I think my friend got, is $299. I want to say, and I think it's. Let me see here. I'm trying to think here. I think it was a one time, but it might be an annual fee. I don't. That's what I'm trying to find out. But anyways, you can set up like multiple people. I think ours came with 5 different logins for it. It was it's pretty cool because you could set up stingers on there, basically like the soundboard that I have now. You could do a whole bunch of stuff if you were going to do live internet radio. So here's I'll share it with you and I'll share it with them. Also having like for a computer, having something like a separate keyboard for hotkeys or even what's called a Stream Deck by Elgato makes transitions on OBS a little bit easier. So, but this is the software that we were using. Um, I didn't get into too much of the crossfading stuff, but this is kind of the thing that we were using. Yeah. Well, it like I said, it's pretty intuitive once you figure it out. It's getting to that. I mean, because there are commercials and things like that. So we would always start. We were trying to set up like an actual 24/7 going all the time. I wonder if, like I said, I haven't seen us live on there anymore, but like I said, I don't know if the licensing was um, if the licensing was one time or if it was annual. So I'll have to look that up later. Yeah, basically it's the licensing to use their software. It's no audio licensing, which is another thing that I want to get into doing is being able to use other audio than what's just available through YouTube. Not that there's anything wrong with the stuff from YouTube, but I just can't justify spending 200 a year. Well, I could justify 200 a year. Where is it? Artistly, I think it is. Um, no, not artistry. Artlist. That's what it is. Royalty free music. It's not like the most popular music, but it is stuff that you can use for your projects and whatnot, and you're not gonna have to worry about necessarily citations and things like that. But I would do it anyways myself.
Yeah, royalty free is always good.
Yep. Sean's kind of got it right too. It all depends on how far you want to take it. Jay has the setup to start going professional podcaster. Um, no, the broadcaster is literally just the audio that I was showing. The Sam broadcaster, it's just audio. It's meant for like internet radio. Terry. So let's see here. Up to 123 according to um, Social Blade on how many subs I have. Sweet. Um, but yeah, it's literally internet radio at some of the easiest and yet hardest because again, getting everything so the audio goes out to the radio station website, and then um, goes out to whatever um, web browsers and whatnot, and then there's making sure that what you're inputting for a stinger doesn't queue too early or it doesn't queue too late for what you're trying to do, because there's certain delays on things. It just took a while, but once you got used to it, it was going into it. And honestly, the best thing to do to find out for podcasting what you want to do is to listen to obviously the topics you want to talk about or the topic you want to talk about, to see if you can provide anything else, or if you might be able to explain something that in a simpler way. And Sean's right. For what you're wanting to do right now, for what you do right now, a base PC and a good mic is all you need.
Hmm.
It's just really how far along the progression you want to go. And again, because I'm going into PR and I know where a lot of PR takes place nowadays is more social media and being able to interact. Learning how to write tweets in a concise manner is something that I'm trying to do, as well as produce content. And if I can show to a prospective employer that I can do all this stuff, the better it will be once I get my degree. So.
Yeah, you're right. It is, it's worth investing a little bit of money in it to do this kind of stuff because, uh, you know, with the way people are sometimes today, I've kind of noticed it doesn't really matter how good the content is if it doesn't look and sound good, you'll lose your audience.
Yep. And that ultimately is the thing is like it's taken me a while to realize that the room that I'm in, the way I was originally set up, I was getting a lot of reverb because I'd hit a wall, it would bounce back to the wall behind me and come back into the microphone. Um, So I went from using a condenser microphone to into a dynamic microphone, which takes a little bit more gain, but it's got a very narrower reception path. And I've learned to angle my mic towards the corner of my mouth and talk, kind of away from the path and talk straight ahead. And I keep it either lower or higher depending on where I'm trying to get it. Because what I used to do is I'd have my mic, up higher away from me and pointed towards me. And now I'm kind of, because I want to be able to see my screen, I've got it back down low. Um, Mic technique of learning how to use P's, T's, S's, and B sounds, D sounds is just comes with time. I mean, I'm not even perfect at it. I mean, I'll still pop the mic a few times on a plosive here and there, um, but really just getting out there to talk to people. I mean, just getting out there to move, um, or move, but to bounce ideas off of people who do things. I could see like besides the shills, I could see like just an audio podcast with like Sean, Jared, Reds, and those guys, literally just sitting around taking a topic at a time and discussing why why flat earthers believe this, or why this particular conspiracy about the flat earth exists, why it's wrong, and how to combat it. And they would be able to explain it, and they wouldn't have to necessarily have visuals to go along with it like you do on YouTube, but it could help some people to understand. I mean, that's how I listen to most of their videos and streams, is I'm just listening to it. I'm not even really looking at the video. Now, if I get a chance to be sitting at my computer, I'll definitely be watching the videos, but it's just one of those things. If you can learn to narrate what you're trying to say and explain it in a way to make it easier, audio podcasting is a really great way to go. And expanding on to video, or even doing not so much live animations, but I suppose you could render a video with no audio and narrate over it while you're live streaming or premiere, or doing over a live stream. But it would be hard to. You'd have to practice at it. Just a thought that I had in my mind.
Yeah, I do the same thing when I listen to those guys and AT2 on his Veterans Weekly. Not really looking at the screen, just listening along. Unless Reds is showing one of his rocket launches,
You
because
have to
that's
watch that.
definitely a visual thing. But those guys know how to use their voices. They know how to animate them. They know how to, to regulate the voice to keep it engaging. And that's a learned skill.
It is. It is, and the only way you can do it. I mean, I think that I do a decent job at it on my podcasts, but it's not. But I have room for improvement. And if I figure I can improve something or make it engaging in one way or another to help somebody latch on, then I've done the right thing, and it's just progressively getting better. You know.
Yeah, I thought having come from a profession where I talked for a living to people, that that would be an easy thing to do, and I'm still learning that it's not the same when you're doing this sort of thing. And
Yeah, Sean's got a nice comment. LOL, can't hear Trog pulling a Morgan Freeman. I think Sean's about the only one here who could do that. I mean, he is the voice after all. But yeah, I mean, I really just the thing about podcasting is you have to enjoy talking. You have to enjoy either telling a story or having a conversation. Serious Football Heads podcast. That's my football one. My last 2 weeks episodes have suffered because my co-host first week was sick. Second week he was actually traveling. So it was me just kind of trying to do the show by myself, but I didn't want to skip weeks. You know what I mean? But
oh,
if you go back and watch our podcast as we started getting into the groove and starting to do things, you'll notice that we have a back and forth. We can get that, and that's where the chills are handy too. All of you feed off of each other, and it's just you're still trying to find your way in actually working together. And I know that you guys are getting there, and you can see the improvements from episode to episode. So
Yeah, it's tough to do, especially with a larger cast.
It is.
Um,
The more
it's kind of
people.
why me and Jeff decided on the L&R deal to keep it small. But there's no way in hell would I want to do just a podcast by myself with nobody to bounce anything off of.
That is the biggest struggle that I have, which is kind of why I'm now shifting towards edited videos. Um, I still try to go on and do streams every once in a while, not just the ones that I appear on regularly, like Veterans Talk, but it allows me to coalesce my thoughts, and I do everything freeform too, which is even harder. I try to have my sources available when I'm doing my recording, but at the same time, it's hard. It's
Yeah, even some of the old, well, I'm a little older than some of you guys, but I remember some late night news broadcasts where it was just a single reporter that was on and he had nobody else to talk to. And God, that looked tough compared to the guys that can banter across the desk or talk to the reporter on the street, you know?
oh yeah, I, I think that's a lost art with people, like Walter Cronkite and all those guys back before, I'd say probably around the mid to late 80s, when you started getting more of the co-host in there, the co-anchors. Um, that's kind of dating myself as well a little bit, but it is it is hard to do a single speaker telling a story. It's one thing to be reading a story that's written and you're just voiceovering, voice acting over the top of it. I mean, that's a hard enough skill in and of itself.
Oh, yeah. My favorite guy back in the day was Paul Harvey.
Oh, Paul
That
Harvey.
man knew how to spin a yarn.
And that is the rest of the story. Can't
I
go wrong.
love that tagline.
I know, and it's like there are times where I catch myself, like when I'm recording, like oh, what was the one he just has? It's on the main page for podcast 99. Um, let me go here. Military to combat fake news. Talking about how DARPA is trying to create AI to look for and identify um, the intent of what a content creator is doing if it's fake news. When I when I sat down to do that, I was like, and I even think I did that as a live stream. I was about to say at the end, that tagline, and that's the rest of the story. I'm like, no, don't do it, because there are people, for whatever it's worth. The reason why people were able to make it big in AM radio and syndicate themselves, and even FM radio like Howard Stern, is that they knew how to use their voice to tell the stories and how to interview people, for those um, that actually do interviews too. And that's that's an art that's being lost, I think, on the younger generations, is being able to sit down and have a conversation. If I were to go back and listen to this now, it started out where I was asking you questions and it felt like I was interviewing you, and then it flipped and let you start asking me questions and having you interview me. And it's the nice back and forth thing. If people could learn to do that skill, I think it would bring more to their content. Um,
Well, the big problem with the art of conversation being lost is the art of listening. I even find that with my friends here in my hometown, that a lot of times I can see it in their eyes when I'm talking to them that they're just thinking about the next thing they're going to say
yeah,
instead of really hearing what I'm saying. Um, eh, yeah, having been a therapist, I'm a little more mindful of it. Am I guilty of that occasionally? Yes. We're all human,
yes.
but I try not to be.
I'm posting another link here. I just remembered that the big community that I'm a part of on Facebook, Podcast Movement, they have a 28-day challenge to launch your podcast.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
But I just posted a link to it in here, and it's actually a pretty. It kind of gives you a step by step on how it works and how to basically get you into sitting down, setting your schedules, etc., and figuring it out. So, as a matter of fact, I actually entered a contest from Rode Microphones to try and get things where I set up. That's where I set up my football podcast. Was for that.
Well, this has been a really interesting conversation, Jay. And if I'm recalling properly, this is the first time we have spoke live. Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, we've obviously interacted through chats and all that, but yeah, I think this is the first time we have talked personally.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me on, and I don't mean to be rude, but I do have to go. I've spent a lot of time online the last few days, and I have to give Babes her due.
Oh yes, definitely. I invited Beaver, and he's been having some of those same attention problems. So I totally understand it.
Yeah, I don't mean to make it sound like she's a nag or anything
No,
because
no,
she's
no,
not.
no, no. I understand
And
entirely.
with significant others for people who do what we do, um, they put up with a lot for us to do our hobby, if
I
you
should be
want to
going
call
too
it that.
because I actually have my wife to attend to as well as I should probably think about making dinner. She's made dinner the last couple nights because I've been working and doing homework, so I should probably make some dinner tonight.
So as soon as I get off here, I'm going to give her a big kiss and a thank you. So, but thank you very much for inviting me on, Jay. I
Yep.
really appreciate it. And I will see you later.
Yep. See you later. Thanks for coming on.
Yep.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna wrap this up as well, guys. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being a part of the conversation, Sean. Thanks for pointing out some stuff for Trog there. And as always, just sit down and figure out what it is you want to do. Terry, I understand exactly what you're saying. Um, where you want to go with your channel, because being individual is hard, and having it grow, one, organically, and two, just having it be you is the hardest part. So, um, so yep. And logical. Anytime you have a question, feel free to hit me up on Discord. Feel free to do anything to help promote your own stuff. Like I said, I'm bad at promoting my own stuff, bad at promoting my own work, but I do this more or less as mental health therapy for myself. I do it as a release. And if people decide they want to support me eventually in the future, by all means, go ahead. So, um, thanks everybody for coming and watching. For those that come back later and watch, great. Hopefully by then the video and audio will sync up better. But next time I will set my settings to a more manageable 1080 by 30 frames per second. How about that? So, you all have a wonderful time, and I'm going to leave you with my music. Okay, not my music, but it's what I use for my intros. So